Hey, what's up, guys? This is MugenLord here, and it appears that this entire week, Xbox has just been the talk of the gaming industry right now, especially after we finally got the release of Redfall, and Redfall just didn't amount to what everybody was expecting it to be, especially with the Microsoft fans out there that was just really hoping that Microsoft release a hit for the Xbox, because they definitely need one at this point, and they pretty much essentially just dropped the ball, and people wanted some answers. And Kind of Funny, which is a gaming website, had pretty much interviewed Phil Spencer himself to come out and, I guess you could say, give his opinion or to talk about the recent failures of the Xbox. So before we dive into this video, just want to let you guys know, if you guys are interested in more content like this revolving around just the gaming industry in general, make sure you hit that subscribe button and notification bell for more gaming content here on this channel. So we're going to dive right into it. Now, I wanted to pick a specific moment in this interview because I will say this was the most candid or the most real interview I've ever seen when it comes to a video game publisher or developer or anything of that matter, when it comes to when their game has essentially failed to meet its expectations and the false promises that a developer have essentially failed to live up to when it comes to its install base. And Phil Spencer, I would say that Kind of Funny, for once, or since I don't really watch those guys essentially much, but I would say that they actually asked some legitimate questions, and we finally got a side of Phil Spencer that most people have never seen, as far as his honesty is concerned, about the failures of the console and the failures of just them not just living up to the expectations. So just one particular thing that he said, because we all have been saying this with this entire week, all Microsoft have to do, and I've been saying it myself, all Microsoft have to do is just release some exclusives, not just exclusives, just release some bangers. Got to release some hits, put the games out there, make the platform attractive, for gamers to want to come over and actually play on the Xbox game console. And it was a question asked about that, and he answered it. And you won't believe what he said, because it was kind of like a head scratcher, because to me, in a sense, it sounded like he had a defeatist mindset, that they pretty much just threw in the towel as far as competing against Sony, and that they just wanted to just play their own game, go their own direction, and just not worry about what Sony and the competition is doing. So let's just hear what Phil Spencer has to say real quick.
We're not in the business of out-consoling Sony or out-consoling Nintendo, but we are not in a position, and I see it out there, I see commentary that if you just build great games, everything would turn around. It's just not true that if we go off and build great games, all of a sudden you're going to see console share shift in some dramatic way.
And there you have it. He pretty much said that making good games just won't automatically just shift the dynamic between consoles sold between Microsoft and Sony. And no one is saying that we want Microsoft to sell or to outpace Sony. We're saying that, hey, make some great games and people will come to the platform. People are starving for some games on the Xbox Series X, on the Xbox platform. People want to play games. And to me, Phil Spencer had pretty much shifted to say, yeah, we can make all the great games in the world, but it won't change the dynamic and the lead that Sony has over us. Now, in a sense, that he have sense in that category, to where at this point, no matter what Microsoft does, Sony would still have somewhat of an edge up. But no one, more so particular me, I'm not really into the whole console war thing. I'm not worrying about Microsoft outselling, PlayStation. I just want them to have great games. I want to be able to play great games on the Xbox platform. And if you're new to my channel, I said it before, I own all the consoles, so I have no dog in this fight when it comes to the console war. But the concern that I do have, I do want Microsoft to be able to put out some games. some games that's worthy to say, hey, this is on the Xbox console and you can actually play these games here. This is the only way you better get this experience on the Xbox. And it seemed like that's something that they're not really focusing on at this point. And what Phil Spencer is really trying to focus on, and I've been saying this for the longest time, is the whole digital space, the whole digital era when it comes to gaming. And this is something that I've been saying since the Xbox One. It seems like that Microsoft is actually trying to play the long game. They trying to secure the bag or secure a spot when we go to an all digital platform where physical media is no longer a thing. And they want to be in the forefront of all of this. And this is why they're going around trying to acquire a bunch of studios. They're not trying to acquire studios, just so you can play them on the Xbox. Phil Spencer saying himself that that they want to go a different approach, and they've been trying to go this approach since the Xbox One.
The worst generation to lose in the Xbox One generation, where everybody built their digital library of games. So when you go and you're building on Xbox, we want our Xbox community to feel awesome. But this idea that if we just focused more on great games on our console, that somehow we're going to win the console race, I think doesn't really lay into the reality of most people. Like 90% of the people every year who walk into a retailer to buy a console are already a member of one of the three ecosystems.
And this is where they messed up badly. And Phil Spencer himself even admitted in this clip that, hey, like, Xbox One was the roughest period, the roughest time for the console, that it really set us back. And something that I didn't think about that Phil Spencer did bring up is the fact is that the digital library really plays an important role when it comes to all this. Since we are going into a digital era, if everybody's playing everything on digital, say for instance PS4, everybody shifted over to the PS4 after Don Matrick and made that stupid mistake with the Xbox One at the very beginning. Even Xbox gamers had ditched it and went over to the PlayStation 4. And PS4 and in that generation, digital gaming has started becoming more of a significance within the game industry compared to the generation before that. So digital media has become more prominent. So at this point, you have a lot of gamers playing a lot of their games digitally, buying it on the PlayStation 4 and buying it on all these digital platforms like Steam, Epic Game Store, and stuff like that. So now all of a sudden you have a more shift in the divide between the audience, because those who continue to stay with the Xbox One will start building their library on the Xbox One, while those who went over to the PS4 started building their digital lobby on the PS4. Now the thing is, now that almost over a decade has passed since the PS4 and the Xbox One, everybody's library has increased and more people are playing more so digital. So what happens when you make a new console, right? You want to be able to maintain that library. And I believe with the Xbox Series X and Series X S, they really wanted to focus on backwards compatibility as well, because with the Xbox Series X, I mean, this is legacy backwards capability. You can play the original Xbox games, 360, Xbox One, and of course its current generation games, which is the Xbox Series X. And it seems as though that a lot of developers in the gaming industry realize that how important a digital library is. That's why I believe a lot of developers are now redoing a lot of remasters, remakes, and just putting out all these HD collections and everything, and people are buying them digitally so they can maintain it. So when you go over to this new generation, those who have a PS4 and a digital library is essentially going to stay on the PS platform, so they can just carry over their library over to the PS5 since everything is digital. And Phil Spencer brought that to my attention that I really didn't pay that any minds, because I'm not really a digital guy. I buy everything physical, but even down to physical, things aren't really as physical as they used to be, for the simple fact is most of the game isn't on the disc anymore. You buy the game, you get a portion of it, you download it, but then you still have to go online so the patch or whatever can install the other portion of the game. onto your console so you're able to play it. You need the disc to play it, but you get the other portion of the game. So if the company somehow goes offline or whatever like that, or the company goes defunct, you're pretty much ass out of luck. You won't have access to the other portion that it needs to install into the game. So physical media is slowly but surely going to fade off into existence. So them saying that, Microsoft and Phil Spencer, well, more so Phil Spencer, is saying that, hey, if we get a hold of the cloud gaming, if we get a hold of having to be able to play these games on all these variety of different platforms, mobile devices and everything, we'll be able to have an edge up before most of the competitors like Nintendo and Sony, because I believe that Nintendo's going to be the last one to actually do this whole digital thing correctly, since they always the one that's always tailing behind when it comes to technology like that. They're always the last to do it. But Microsoft is trying to go in that direction, and it seemed like that the Series X, it's on their mind, but that's not the vocal point of this. Like he said, he don't want to be a better green version of the blue version, which is Sony, that's out there. They want to be able to be a console that provides something much different by doing its own thing.
I see a lot of pundits out there that kind of want to go back to the time where we all had cartridges and discs, and every new generation was a clean slate, and you could switch the whole console share. That's just not the world that we are in today. There is no world where Starfield's an 11 out of 10 and people start selling their PS5s. That's not going to happen. So what we have to do, and we have this unique vision because we see what creators want to do. Creators want to build games that can meet players on any screen.
And I still say, if in order for people to invest in the Xbox, you still need good games. Phil, you still need good games. I still can't believe that he literally said that, just making good games is not going to change their situation. But in order for people to invest in your console, invest in your cloud gaming, and invest in your services, you still have to make good games. That's what brings people over. Now, there's also another argument saying that, from people within Twitter that, I was having discussions with, that, well, Phil, like, you're wrong in this aspect. People will go out and buy that Xbox, buy an additional console, if you make the good games. And I say that to say this is for the fact is that most casual gamers don't go out and buy multiple consoles. And in fact, when it comes to Microsoft and Sony, there's a lot of overlap with the consoles. That's why most people will buy a Nintendo Switch to complement a PS5, or buy a Nintendo Switch to complement an Xbox Series X or the PC. But most of the time there's always overlap, and in order to eliminate that overlap, you will have to put out some exclusives to make it a reason for people to play on it. But it's more so the hardcore gamers. It's more so the hardcore gamers like myself and many others who will go out and buy multiple consoles. But now more than ever, brand loyalty has been even bigger. I thought I was completely wrong. I thought brand loyalty was eventually going to fade away once we start going into more of the cross platforms, and where multi-platform games start coming out and everything start to be more seamless and everything start to seem more connected together as far as the consoles are concerned. But no, now that we are more digital, which I never paid any mind or never noticed, there will be more brand loyalty. People's going to stick to what they know, stick to where their library is at, where they can have easy access to it, where they don't have to go buy another console and also have to rebuy their entire library once again, since they're on a different ecosystem. And when we do go over to more of a more integrated gaming, generation, where we start having, like I said, a cross platform, then there's no need to buy the other console, where I can still game on this system and still have access to my library and still be able to play my friends who has a entirely different console. So yes, I do see why Phil Spencer is talking more so in digital, because things are becoming more brand loyalty, and with these libraries, more people are staying with that brand because they have their games there, and having to start over, it just doesn't, from a return on investment or just an investment point of view, as far as this hobby is concerned, it just doesn't make sense to now, when I move over to this platform, now I have to rebuy the games that I already have on this console over here. So people going over to buy an Xbox won't change the position that Xbox in a certain case, where if you already own a PlayStation, that's never going to change. No one's going to sell their PlayStation. They'll just buy an Xbox, but it still will keep Sony in the lead. So I do see in that regard. But to say that creating good games won't, benefit them or, change anything, I just think I don't buy that, Phil. I don't buy it at all. If you want those subscriptions to be high for a Game Pass, you still need those games. You still need to make great games. That's what people will subscribe to your Game Pass. People will buy the console. There won't be no xCloud or anything in that matter if people's unsubscribing and moving on to other things, if you're not producing great games and you creating a balance and a timely schedule for these games for all these studios that you guys have purchased up. People are just waiting on the games. People are just waiting on the games, and people want more quality control when it comes to putting these games out. But that's essentially it for this video. I just want to give you my thoughts on that, with this whole, just making a good game, won't change the position that Microsoft is in. And yes, I will admit that Microsoft does have an uphill battle when it comes to Nintendo and Sony in that regards of the market and the deals that they have and the relationships that they have pretty much essentially build, with third-party publishers and other companies within the industry. But there's still no excuse to not be able to put out great games, especially with all the studios that they have. And as I said before, they're looking in the long term. They don't really care about the short term. And it's sad that, fans of this community is going to suffer for it before things start to shift for them. And this is why they really wanted that Activision Blizzard, because that adds more to their xCloud, that adds more to their subscription service, and that's going to pretty much solidify and secure what they're trying to do once we move into this old digital era. So people are going to get hurt, but will they make it to this old digital era if they continue to drop the ball like Redfall? And now everybody's relying on Starfield right now to be the thing. People are saying that Starfield is make it or break it for Microsoft right now, because if Starfield, and I don't have high hopes. I'm not going to get Starfield. Don't care for it, but I don't have high hopes for it. And I'm afraid that if Starfield doesn't do what it's supposed to do or bring in that success, that whatever roadmap that they have for the future for Xbox is going to start looking much more grim than what it actually is right now. And as far as the future of Xbox, I think it's going to pretty much essentially almost be over for them if they don't get this right. They have to get it right moving forward. They have to start showing some games, showing, hey, this is some solid release dates that we have. This is the lineup. We got this. And I think right now is the time for them to show and prove. They can't say, hey, we promised this, we promised that. They just have to deliver now. So I definitely want to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think about Phil Spencer's statement during the interview? And is he essentially just giving up on the Xbox itself and just finally just tipping his hat off to Sony and saying, hey guys, you won the console war? Or do you think that, they are now just being straightforward and honest with his audience, so that people can now, or the audience themselves, can lower their expectations or have much more realistic expectations now that Microsoft is letting you clearly know that cloud gaming and the Game Pass is their main entire goal, and that the console is just, is there just to complement that game plan moving forward. So if you like the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button for more gaming content here on this channel. This is MugenLord signing off. I'll see you Game Fiends later. Peace out.